Alright, it's time to talk about a classic album, an album that, oddly, I didn't listen to until a little bit later on in my youth. This was going back to when I was like a die-hard Genesis fan, and I would only really listen to everything from like Trespass all the way to And Then There Were Three. Like anything that came after that peak, I wanted nothing to do with it. And I know why. It's mainly because like my dad and a few other of my friends were like, everything after And Then There Were Three is garbage. Like once Duke hit, misunderstanding, but so because of that, I avoided it. I never listened to it, and I never listened to Abacab, which probably is a good thing. I never listened to Invisible Touch. I never listened to the self-titled work. I never listened to We Can't Dance. And getting into them, I could understand where they were coming from, especially growing up during that time as they were, coming out. But there's still quite a lot of really good stuff out of these albums. So I'm going to take my time, and I've already done a number of these kind of classic album reviews, but I want to do a little bit more and try to convince those who are lagging behind or don't want to listen to them, or listen to them and then was like, that's not for me. Maybe give them another chance. Maybe give them a second chance, except for Abacab. Don't listen to Abacab. Let's get into this one. Duke by Genesis. So I don't think I need to introduce Genesis at this point. UK progressive rock legends. And Duke was arguably the first foray the group had into the pop scene, which is kind of ironic because it has a lot of really proggy stuff still on it. Like arguably it's more proggy than the predecessing album of And Then There Were Three. And what I really, really appreciate for Duke is the idea of a 20-minute song structuring this album. Like I want to say that the original idea was to have one side of the album be a full long suite, and then the other side just being the singles that they were writing. But for one reason or another, either it was the studio that stepped in or the band themselves that were like, we don't really want to do another Supper's Ready kind of a deal. They stepped out of it and then broke up this 20-minute suite into two parts that bookend the album. So we have the Duke suite that opens it up with Behind the Lines, Duchess, and guide vocals. Then I guess Turn It On Again, because I know when they played it live, they put Turn It On Again as the midpoint of the album, or the midpoint of the track. It is the midpoint of the album. And then having Duke's Travels and Duke Ends being the final bookend. And then intermixed along that is kind of Tony Banks doing his own little thing outside of, say, like Turn It On Again and Misunderstanding. So what I really, really like is that progressive rock suite. The 11 or so minutes that open it up and the 11 or so minutes that close it off. I think that's just like 22 minutes of just beautiful. And the album, the tracks in between are fine. I will admit, Misunderstanding and Turn It On Again are a lot of fun. I really, really do like Misunderstanding. I heard it a lot on the radio when I was growing up, so this was one of the tracks that I was familiar with the band before I really, really got into the band. Same with Turn It On Again. Like, I didn't know Turn It On Again as much, and it was a song that I heard from time to time. So those were like the two big tracks off the album that came out of it. But I think something that gets overlooked are more of the heartfelt ballads that are on here. Like, I'm not a big fan of Phil or Tony's ballads, but these ones kind of work. Pathés, the last track off of the first side, as well as Alone Tonight and Cul-de-sac. Like, a lot of these tracks feel like they have essentially been lifted off A Curious Feeling, and I really, really love A Curious Feeling, the solo work from Tony Banks. Just that synthesized piano tone that he's got overlaying this whole album. It's really dark but light sound to it. Like, it's kind of like a pale moon glow, like it's really, really hard to kind of really, really nail down. And these three tracks, Man of Our Time, especially Man of Our Time and Alone Tonight, I really do like Cul-de-sac of how large the sound becomes and how big it feels. And Please Don't Ask is fine. I think this one could probably also be cut. Like, I feel like those three are basically intermixed. And it's fine, but I do like how Please Don't Ask blends very, very well with the beginning of Duke's travels. So I'd probably leave that one on only for that blending between the two tracks. I'm just all over the place with this review. So yeah, in this sense, we've kind of got three faces of this album. We've got the big proggy piece of the Duke suite, we've got the big standout singles of the tracks, and then we have these very heartfelt, lamenting ballads. And the ballads, I think, are, on the one hand, they're the weaker point of this album, but when you compare them to the other Genesis ballads that came before them, I think they're really, really well done and really well structured. Like Tony and Phil coming together to create these really, really beautiful pieces of music, I think elevates the track overall. And I think these tracks wouldn't have worked if it weren't for the Duke suite and the really big and fun tracks that was Misunderstanding and Turn It On Again. But I do want to gush a little bit about the Duke suite because I really, really particularly love that. And I think it's overlooked far too often. I love the rhythm section. I love how big this is. I love how meaty it is. And I also love, I mean, this was released back in 1980 where a lot of the progressive rock bands of that time were getting really, really dark. Like, this album does have its darker moments, but within the Duke suite, it's very fun. It's very infectious. It's very bright and colorful. If you compare this to, say, Drama from Yes, or The Wall from Pink Floyd, or even Discipline a little bit from King Crimson, this one is very, very bright and colorful. Yeah. So yeah, Duke in the end is a little bit of a mixed grab bag, but one of my favorites from Genesis. And it's one that I come back to quite a bit, especially when I need a good pick-me-up. Yeah, this is one that I definitely love with my whole heart. It's got so many good points on it, and even with some of those lower moments like Hearth Haze, I think it is, Hearth Haze, as well as Please Don't Ask, even those lower points, I still enjoy and I still get a lot out of it. So yeah, that's about it for Duke. What did you guys think of Duke from Genesis? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, where I might be reviewing this guy, notes out.